As we mentioned in the earlier episodes, room reflections could be beneficial for music timbre and spaciousness. It will also provide you more enveloped sound effect with the proper room reflections. Without the room reflections, such as if you were listening music in the anechoic chamber, your music will most likely be thin and dry. This will be good for music editing and mastering studio as you need the extreme clarity to analyze the music. But not for music enjoyment if you want to enjoy the live music effects. All concert halls in the world have the room reflection effects. It is how you want to manage the reflection, is the key to get the best sound for your music enjoyment in your listening position. Most of the room reflection is for reverberation of the sound, which is the reflected sound bouncing from the room boundaries multiple times, before reaching to your ears. These reverberated sound will provide the ambience for your music, or sound environment, to make the live sounding effects. You do not want to completely eliminate these from your room, but too much of these will mess up your sound clarity, or even with some echoes if the reverberation time, so-called RT60, is too long. RT60 is defined as the time that it takes for the sound pressure to drop by 60 decibels after the sound source has stopped. If the reverberation time is too long, the speech will be unintelligible and music will sound muddy. On the other hand, if the reverberation time is too short, the room will sound sterile and uninviting. For large concert halls, the RT60 shall be managed about 1 to 2 seconds. Church is about 2 to 10 seconds, while classroom is about 0.4 to 0.7 seconds. For our normal music listening room, due to the size is much smaller, so the RT60 is normally less than 0.6 seconds unless you have very bad reflecting room surfaces. If RT60 is less than 0.3 seconds, then the room is acoustically dead, which is not good for music listening. Here you can see one anechoic chamber as an example. It shows all RT60 numbers below 0.25 second, and varying with frequencies. RT60 measurement is based on omnidirectional sound source and is assuming a well-diffused room. For the speakers in the relative small listening room, the high frequency range is more directional and the room is reflective. The other measurement, EDT, or early decay time, shall be used as not fully diffused environment. The EDT is an important parameter for the subjective perception of acoustics, and can be determined in a similar way as the reverberation time, like RT60. According to the ISO 3382, EDT is related to the perceived reverberance, while RT60 measurement is related to the physical properties of the auditoriums. Here shows some surface material sound absorption coefficients. They are frequency dependent too. The smaller the absorption coefficient is, the more reflection they will have. As the common sense we have, marble and painted concrete or smoother surface will have stronger reflection, so you will need to have some sound treatment to reduce the reflections. Carpet will have much better sound absorption at higher frequency, but does not do much at lower frequency. Wood surfaces are more balanced across different frequencies as showed, but they are not much different from the rough concrete surface at higher frequency range. The most critical reflection is the first reflection, or early reflection from your room. All the loudspeakers will have the direct sound coming from the speakers to you directly. This could be the on-axis sound, or the off-axis sound, depends on your speaker's tone angles, but the reflected sound is typically the off-axis sound. Now almost all speakers' off-axis sound will have much worse frequency response curves, comparing to their on-axis sound. So how to balance them to your ears is the most critical task, for speakers placement and potential your room treatments. The first reflection sound is bouncing only once from your room boundaries. The reason they are more critical is because they have the strongest sound, comparing to the other reflected sound. The other reflections will take much longer travel paths, while they are bouncing from the room boundaries multiple times. The longer the sound travel path is, the more sound pressure level degradation they have, along with the longer delay time they have, so our ears and brain tend to ignore them, and consider them as the ambience or noise. If you are listening to speakers in your living room or family room, then you may not have to treat your room, as your furnitures and decor on the walls will provide sufficient absorption and diffusion for the sound reflections. If the ceiling is not tall enough, meaning not higher than 8 feet, then you might need to add some diffusion treatments to avoid the sound reflection issue. The floor shall be covered with thick carpet to get better sound clarity. For dedicated listening room, it tends to be quite empty, so you might need to consider the room acoustic treatment to manage the sound reflection issues. The first thing you want to do is to find the best speakers placement locations before you start worrying the sound reflection and doing any room acoustic treatments. If you are still not satisfied with the sound after you have optimized your speakers placement, then you can add some sound diffusion or absorption panels on the first sound reflection points. As mentioned above, do not overdo for the room treatments, as you do want to have some level of the sound reflections to enjoy the live sound effects. The first reflection points on your walls are showed on this illustration. You shall just treat a small section of these reflecting points, such as the 2 feet by 4 feet panels, otherwise you might kill too much reflections, and make your room too absorptive.